All right, so ECAT, we're ready to begin. Great, thank you. Welcome to the Easton School Committee meeting of Thursday, October 10th, 2024. This meeting is being conducted in a hybrid format where attendance by committee members may be remote and remote attendance shall count toward quorum. So this evening we have joining us remotely Nancy DeLuca. Nancy, can you confirm that you can hear us and that we can hear you?
I can hear you.
All right, great, and we can hear you. And then in the Simmons Lecture Hall, we have Dr. Alicia Cabral, voting members, Kelly Percio, Jen Starr, Lauren Loomis, and then we have our Assistant Superintendent, Chrissy Pruitt, our Student Representative, Marvel Nemmer, and Marvel is going to introduce an associate today.
Our Student Advisory Board to the School Committee is composed of 5 students: Senior Franklin Chen, Junior Veronica Shinoy, Freshman Brendan Dolan, and here with us today, Sophomore Leah Evora. Leah specifically works with Richardson Olmsted School and will be updating us on that later. As of now, we hope to continue to get more student representation during the meetings by adding other students from the board.
Great, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
And then, okay, so we still don't have Jackie yet, right? Okay. So this meeting is open to the public. Members of the public who are attending in person who would like to make a comment during our public comment period, which is later in the agenda, will be invited to do so at that time. Members of the public who do wish to make a comment need to state their name and address before beginning comments, and comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. So we'll get into some more of the logistics then if there are any members of the public who are here to offer comment this evening. All right, so with that, the meeting has been called to order, and we can move on to our first item on the agenda, which is a vote to approve minutes from September 26, 2024, which was our last regular school committee meeting. So do any committee members have any questions, comments, or edits? And kudos, as always, to our secretary for capturing some complex discussions in ways that can be understood. Appreciate that. Okay, so no committee?
Looks good to me.
Okay, all right. I'll make a motion then to approve the minutes from September 26th. Can I get a second?
Loomis, second.
And roll call vote. Oh, and Jackie has entered. So Jackie, can you confirm that you can hear us and we can hear you?
I can hear you.
Great, thank you. We can hear you. Okay. All right.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Percio, yes.
Okay, great. And then next up, we have minutes from our workshop from September 23rd. Any questions, comments, or edits on these? I did not have any.
Looks good to me.
Okay, all right, great. So I'll make a motion then to approve the workshop minutes from September 23rd, 2024. Can I get a second?
And to release?
Yeah, it's a public meeting.
Okay.
So, yep. So we don't need to do this one for exec session.
Okay.
Would somebody like to second?
Percio, second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Percio, yes.
Okay. All right, so next up on the agenda, we have approval of a donation from Sarah's Village. Dr. Cabral?
Thank you. Director Craig Davidson is here. Director of Student Services Craig Davidson is here to introduce our generous donors and to welcome them up to be recognized for that generous donation. Craig, please.
Thank you, Dr. Cabral. I'm excited to announce Sarah's Village is here tonight to present a little bit about themselves and the programming that is offered through their grant funding each year to us. There will also be a student representative that talks tonight. Sarah's Village has been an unbelievable partner over the last few years for the school district. They have provided grant funding towards social-emotional education and clinical support to our staff. and students at large. They're a huge partner and focuses mightily on our YHS survey data each year to attack some of the deficits that we see in those data points. I'd love to introduce Mark and Cynthia Bresnahan tonight.
I'm not worthy of applause, but Cynthia is.
Thank you for having us. We brought us the guest speaker, Stella Sackos. And so we just want to reiterate our mission. It's to promote wellness and to eliminate the stigma with mental health for young people. So I'm going to make this a little interactive. I was wondering if anyone can tell us how many years we've been providing grants to Easton.
This is school, you gotta have a quiz, right?
Anyone take a guess?
4?
Generous, that's generous.
Okay. I wish we could have, but yeah, no, it's only been 2 years.
Okay.
And do you know how much we propose each year?
20, right?
20,000?
All right, yes.
That could be considered cheating, generous to organize thing.
That was what I thought. It's a team effort now? Okay, a group project?
Well, they didn't say.
Group work is good. Good. Yeah, so in the last 2 years ago, we impacted about 1,500 students. And then this past year, we about doubled that to about 3,000. And so our goal is, so we engage with Craig on creating the plan and Christine Kelly as well. And so we're excited to come back this year and with another plan. The proposals are already in and Craig sent them over and I started opening them up and I'm like, all right, we're over 20,000 already. Sharpen the pencil, I guess someone's gonna have to
Give him an inch.
Yeah, but it's good to have more and more people engaged, and we're excited. It's kind of like a little bit of a home week here as we saw some of the principals and assistant principals, so we've been getting back into the schools and seeing the teachers and things like that too. So, we're here trying to make a difference around that. And so we just wanted to review a little bit of the impact and some of the programs that we've done, and that's where Stella's going to talk a little bit about what we've done with the Active Minds chapter. All right, sure.
Hello everyone, my name is Stella Zakos and I'm president of the Active Minds Club here at Oliver Ames High School. I would like to thank Sarah's Village for the resources and funds that they've provided us over the past few years. So first, I would like to touch upon the VAR training that they brought into this school. So VAR stands for Validate, Appreciate, and Refer, and it was a training school-wide that taught students how to interact with peers that may be going through struggles and how to ultimately get that peer to the resources they need to progress. This basically gave students more comfort and more knowledge in how to approach those tricky situations. Second, I would also like to talk about the Kyle Cares Conference. So our chapter goes every year. We've been there now 2 years, and 550 students attend from over 37 different schools. This has a very large impact on the members of our chapter, and I'll tell you quickly why. We go to this massive conference, we meet students from 3 different states, and we come back and we sit and we just talk, because we learn so much over such a short period of time on how to tackle big questions, how to work with students who might be less approachable when it comes to mental health. And ultimately, most of the activities that our chapter pursues are activities that we've heard about from the Kyle Cares Conference. So it's really important for us to continue bringing students to that conference to learn from other peers from across Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. And then finally, I'd like to talk about the Green Bandana Project. So this is a suicide awareness project that we've brought into OA with the help of Sarah's Village. And this is about prevention and acknowledgement. So basically, we stand outside at lunch, we have chapter members hand out a green bandana and a resource card. And when you tie the bandana around your backpack, you're symbolizing that you're an ally. So a student who might be going through mental health challenges, or who maybe is struggling with classwork even, can go up to the student and confide in them and ultimately get the help they need. This is really important because, you want to have a support system like that in the high school, especially because every student at some point or another is struggling. And until you acknowledge that, students are going to struggle silently, and we don't want that. We want anything but that. So with Sarah's Village bringing that in, we have seen it. You have students who now have 2 bandanas tied around their backpack, or who don't have a bandana, but they're offering their advice. So we've seen an impact, and ultimately, it's opening up that conversation for students to acknowledge, and that goes back to the VAR training of validating, appreciating, and referring. So overall, I would like to thank Sarah's Village for all they've done for our chapter, and we're excited for the next year.
One of the most amazing things working with the Bresnan Hands is seeing their passion behind the subject. They've challenged us as a school district to think differently, and we've actually extended our program. Originally, it was really high school and middle school, and we started to try to bring it down to our youngest levels. We really attack our health classes across the district and provide trainings and guest speakers to all levels at this point. And as Mark was kindly saying earlier, we changed our viewpoint a little bit going into this year. And so the Bresnan Hands are here to recommend a donation amount tonight. And we were trying to get ahead of that by creating an application process for our entire district. And so we actually had 9 applications that span from preschool through the age of 22 with a wide range of or wide array of applications and ideas to support Sarah's Village and their vision. So it was a pleasure introducing them here tonight, and hopefully to continue our partnership with Sarah's Village and the Bresnan Hands.
Amazing. Thank you.
If I could just thank you. I have seen the impact that your generosity has had in the programs that we've offered our kids, and they've really embraced it, as you see. And Stella, you did a great job, and I thank you for coming tonight too. We are very appreciative. We do not have the resources to do some of the things that we really know are important for our kids, and you doing this in Sarah's honor especially is very impactful and meaningful to us. And so we thank you very much.
Yep, glad we can come back for another renewal. I remember Chrissy Pruitt challenging me nicely in the kindest.
She does. We all know she doesn't do it nicely. It's okay.
It was about
It's okay.
sustaining like anything, right? And
Yeah.
if you start a program, you want to be able to sustain it and continue it. And so we're just grateful that we're able to keep coming back, and appreciate you guys allowing us into your buildings and take the time. So,
Thank you.
when someone like Stella talks about the impact on the front lines, that's where we want to be.
Thank you.
What's so remarkable
20 for this year is what we're doing.
Wow.
today is
Amazing.
Mental Health Awareness Day.
Yes,
So it's really
very
fun.
applicable.
Do before we vote to accept this incredibly generous donation, do any school committee members have any questions or comments? Jackie, did you raise your hand, or were you shuffling papers? Sorry. Good.
No, but I just want to thank them for their generous donation and for their contribution to our school society.
I echo that. My older daughter danced with your daughter at Dance Express, so thank you for all you do.
What Stella mentioned about students being a resource for their peers really reminded me of my kids have all since graduated, but especially my older kids. I remember seeing them struggle with how to help friends who were struggling, right? And you always had that kind of moment of you're being a good friend, but you're not trained to do this, and you've got to get, by the best thing you can do is to connect your friend with people who are trained to help them. in your big 16-year-old heart just can't do that, right? But to be training students who have that big-heartedness and that desire to support and help their friends, and giving them concrete ways to channel that into meaningful, helpful steps that kind of relieve them and let them know that they're helping their friend, but they're not taking that on and internalizing it and increasing their own feelings of responsibility is really remarkable, and I think is just such a smart way to make use of that wonderful instinct that, you know, I think especially teenagers have to help each other, help themselves, you know, confide and all of that. So just, yeah, where you mentioned the green bandana and having to, you know, symbolize, you know, allyship for you to have the training and the resources to know what to do with some of these very big, heavy things that happen is really, really amazing. So thank you for all of the work that you do, and especially super impactful initiatives like that I think I can see being very, very meaningful. So I appreciate that.
Chairperson Starr, the amazing part of that training was not only were we able to provide that training to our students, but we were able to provide that same training to our staff at the high school. So it was a community effort by Leanne Fleming and Kristen Uccioli to bring that guest speaker in and provide that skill set to not only our students but our staff. So we're all speaking the same language to be able to support each other.
So great. All right. So would somebody like to make a motion to approve the $20,000 donation from Sarah's Village?
So moved, Marcia.
Can I get a second?
Loomis, second.
Roll call vote?
Luca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Marcia, yes.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming.
Thank
Have
you.
a great night. Thank you.
You can stay.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay.
All right. Next up on the agenda is a vote to approve a donation for the Blanche Ames Elementary School. Dr. Cabral?
Thank you. Principal Cedarbaum is here with Ray Murphy, a Blanche Ames parent, and the Easton Tigers Youth Lacrosse Girls donation. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. So at the end of last school year, I was approached by Easton Youth Lacrosse about a donation to Blanche Ames, which we vetted through both our athletic director and our department head for PE and health. And I've asked Mr. Murphy to come and speak tonight about what that donation looks like, will entail, and how it will benefit our students at Blanche Ames.
Excuse me. I wish I could tell you that I got 20 grand to give you, but I'm just going to talk about some lacrosse sticks.
Yeah. It all helps.
Not to the kids who are going to use them.
Touche. Thank you very much for the introduction, Doc. Thank you for the committee for having me. My name is Ray Murphy, and I am the Easton Town Youth Lacrosse Girls Director. I've been doing it for quite a while now. I don't know how familiar everyone is with lacrosse, so I'll just kind of talk a little bit about that first. Lacrosse was first played and invented by the Native Americans in the 12th century. The game has evolved a lot since then. It's not so much about ceremony and preparing for war as it is about fun and gameplay. Since 2003, lacrosse is the fastest growing team sport in North America. I think the fastest growing sport is now pickleball, but lacrosse is still hanging on strong. Right? So lacrosse is a men's and a women's game, okay? They're the same in name and very different in gameplay, okay? Both in the types of equipment, the general rules of the game. We don't need to get into that. Easton Town Youth Lacrosse is, we're really dedicated to growing the game of lacrosse and continuing to hopefully keep it the fastest growing game in North America. We do that through various things. In an effort to do that, we hold free lacrosse clinics called Learn to Lax every fall and every spring. They're mostly for younger children aged typically K through 4th grade, and we provide equipment. It's not all the equipment, it's basically sticks and some softer balls, and it's just to get a stick in a child's hand, get them used to throwing it, get them used to the game, get used to the teamwork aspect of the game. Over the past couple of years, we've been talking about different ways that we can grow the game, and it came up that it would be a good idea to try to incorporate it directly into the physical, bless you, into the physical education program at Blanche Ames. And so we came up with this idea that, maybe we can give you some sticks and some softballs. The phys ed teachers can do what they do, and the kids can have some fun and learn about lacrosse. We're going to be donating, we'd like to donate something called a fiddle stick. So what a fiddle stick is the smaller version of a lacrosse stick. Now again, with the difference, there are differences between a boy stick and a girl stick. Fiddle sticks are all the same. They're all more similar to a boy stick than a girl stick. Just think of a smaller version of a lacrosse stick. We will be donating some softer training balls as well. If anybody's ever held a lacrosse ball, you probably would agree that it's not the best thing to be firing at a kindergartner that doesn't have the proper equipment on. So these are very soft balls. I would say they're squishier than a tennis ball. Very, very, very safe. The total amount of the donation is probably about $700. Might even be cheaper than that. It's going to be about 36 sticks and then about probably 40 balls to start. The balls do tend to go missing, so that's something that we can very easily replenish. The sticks, how long's the life on them? It really kind of depends on how they're used. I believe the ones that we're going to be donating are plastic sticks. So, I mean, if they're whacking them with rocks, they'll last a couple of years. But if they're using them as intended, it could last 5 to 10 years. Thank you for listening. Any questions?
Any questions, Jackie or Nancy? No? All right, so I don't have any questions, but I love this idea. My kids, 3 of my kids played lacrosse, and growing the sport was always something that I know was looked at, from the high school level on down, and so it's such a fun sport. So I'm just kind of, it's one of the things where I'm like, oh, why didn't we think of this 10 years ago? Yeah, okay, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's a great way to introduce it. So thank you for thinking of this really good idea and coming up with the donation of the equipment to make it happen. That's amazing.
Thank you for being open to it.
Can I?
Yeah.
It probably wasn't fair to put you after Sarah's Village.
Yeah,
But please do not think that we don't value this very much.
No, I
If we had the money for it, we would have gotten it. So we obviously don't. And so we thank you for it. Similarly, both of my kids, it's the only sport they both stayed with. And it was great for them. And it was 20 plus years ago when everybody was like, what's lacrosse? Why aren't you playing baseball? And it was a great experience. And I love the thought of our littlest littles getting involved with it in PE class, where they're learning how to hold the stick properly and, learn about swing, follow throughs and all that. So,
hand coordination
excellent,
and
yes.
balance.
So
many good skills.
we're really appreciative that you thought of us. We hope we can be a great feeder program to your program and have a win-win. And
I hope so too.
thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sure you get paid big bucks to do what you do.
Oh,
So we thank you for that.
Okay, any other comments from the school committee? Okay, all right. So would somebody like to make a vote then to accept the donation from the Easton Town Youth Lacrosse Girls Program for lacrosse sticks and balls to Blanche Ames?
So moved, DeLuca.
Thanks, Nancy. Can I get a second?
Percio, second.
Roll call vote?
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes?
Loomis, yes.
Percio, yes.
Great. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I look forward to my little guy.
And then another donation, which is for Oliver Ames High School from Kyle Cares. Dr. Cabral?
Thank you. Principal Kavanaugh is here. She's going to present a donation from Kyle's Care Incorporated, and I will allow her to share the details with you.
Thank you. So we're very, very fortunate to also partner with Kyle Cares, an organization from a family based out of North Attleboro that provides support to destigmatizing mental health and supporting our students here in the school. One of the Active Minds chapter that Stella spoke about earlier was started with the original funding from Kyle Cares. This year we received a notice from them that they are generously donating $2,500 to our Active Minds chapter again this year. And once accepted, we will work with Kyle Cares to make a determination of how best to use that funding to support our students in continuing to be able to access support and support each other in their mental health.
Right. Any questions or comments from the committee or from Dr. Cabral?
I would just say similarly to the work that's being done with Sarah's Village, this is something that we are extremely grateful for. As you know, this need has grown and we were not as prepared. Certainly COVID exacerbated some certain things, and any additional funding to help us advance our initiatives for our kiddos is so greatly appreciated. And we thank you and all of the principals for working with these community partners as well to bring these opportunities to our school. It's a very creative way to, like I said, help advance our initiatives for our kids.
Don't think I have anything to add to that, so thank you. Thank you for
Mind if I
bringing that
say
to us. Yeah, of course.
As a student, the work they do does not go unnoticed, but I also, Stella did an amazing job talking about Active Minds, but then for EMS, their 97 Club, it's kind of like, they're like health club, and it's like it's kind of like a mini East Wings of Hope Coalition, and it's super, like they do a lot of work, and I couldn't, like when I was in the middle school, we didn't have that. And then going back to the middle school and seeing their meetings and seeing all the growth that they have and the great impacts they have, it's just really aspiring. So I'm glad they have that now.
Great, thank you. So appreciate the student perspective on this. Yeah, having these programs available in our schools is just, it's night and day from where we were even a few years ago. So, and we couldn't do this without the support of community partnerships like Kyle Cares and Sarah's Village. So thank you to Kyle Cares for continuing to support our program. We really appreciate it.
Very grateful for their opportunity to create support for kids in a way that they feel is needed. I know that family as well, and it's impressive all that they do and donate to the schools. And the conference that they create is just another example of the amazing impact they have. So very appreciative of their support.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, so would somebody like to make a motion to accept the $2,500 donation from Kyle Cares to Oliver Ames High School?
Loomis, so moved.
And can I get a second?
Percio, second.
And roll call vote. Nancy?
DeLuca, yes, sorry.
That's okay.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes?
Loomis, yes.
Percio, yes.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. And so our next up, we have a review of feedback on the Oliver Ames schedule. So Dr. Cabral?
Okay, once again, Principal Kavanaugh is here. She has some information to share with you. When she proposed with her team the result of a lot of work on their part to try to provide better opportunities for students at the high school, they presented the schedule to the school committee and want to provide updates on how that is going throughout the school year. This is the first one. We've been using it, of course, for a month now, a good month now, and so we have a little bit of information to share with you, and Kelly has a slide or two that she is going to use to help illustrate some information. If you want to sit in the audience so that you can see it more clearly, we invite you to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. As Dr. Cabral just mentioned, this is the first of 4 scheduled updates I have for you throughout the year. Today I'm going to focus a lot on the rollout of the schedule. We're about 30 days into we haven't lived it long enough to give you some in-depth feedback, so I'm going to share with you information about the rollout and the survey results from our first survey, and then share with you next steps moving forward. So you can go to the next slide. So just a reminder, what's new in our schedule. We have the addition of a flexible learning block. We call that H block. We have a 7-day cycle where the blocks rotate, and H block falls 3 times in that cycle. We made adjustment to the frequency and length of our advisory blocks. So advisory is now every other day, so that means 4 times a cycle. And then we also included an extended advisory for extra time to schedule where students will be spending their flexible learning block. And then we also added 10 late start days for professional learning communities, and we've had 2 of those so far this year. So first, the first survey question I want to share with you is, so far, I am finding H block to be a positive addition to our schedule, and I created a Likert scale. When you look at the percentages, you'll see that the majority of our staff and students have found this to be a positive impact into our schedule so far this year. And then the next question is, so because at the time of the survey, we'd only had 1 late start. So right now, my main concern was, did we roll this out effectively? Did it go smoothly for everybody? Did everybody know what the expectations were? And as you can see, the majority of our students and staff did find that that the rollout of the late start went smoothly for them. This is some of the more anecdotal written feedback that we received. So you'll see, when I sent out the survey, as much as I pleaded over the announcements for everyone to fill it out, I had about 30%, 33% of our students fill it out, and close to 45% of our staff, which is a pretty good number. The major feedback is that the rollout of H block is a really positive addition to our schedule. Students love being able to get support. They love being able to get work done during the day, and they can find a space where they're comfortable and confident to do that. And staff feel the same way. One of the interesting facts that I did find is that the majority of the students who rated the impact of H block on their day a 1 or 2, it was because they're not allowed to use their cell phones during H block. So I wanted to name that and just kind of take a moment to reinforce to the community how important it is to us that our students aren't distracted by their cell phones when they're working, and how important it is for their mental health to not have that social media feed in front of them during the school day. And we'll continue to work on that and support our students. They do use their cell phones between classes and at lunch if they need to check in with home or check in with friends. And then the major piece of feedback that came from both staff and students in different ways was the fact that our bell schedule, so whether it's an H block day or advisory schedule, are different. And even I find it confusing. I don't know what time each block ends. So that's going to be one of our focuses over the next few weeks, is to identify a response to that feedback. The faculty have a lot of other things that they recommended, like do we need that extended advisory to schedule 8 blocks? Some wanted more H blocks during the cycle, and others wanted to look at the passing time during lunch block. Those are all things that I'm going to dive deeper into in our second survey, because right now I felt like with only 2.5 cycles of H block under our belt, we didn't quite have the lived experience of the new schedule to give that feedback. So you'll see that actually in my next slide with the next steps. So I've already reviewed our existing bell schedule and made adjustment to create a more consistent, easy to follow bell schedule. I sent it out for people to review, and I'm going to collect feedback on that. So that's the first step, is to make sure that we address that concern that came out of the surveys. The second is a second survey in the beginning of November, once we've lived this experience for this schedule for 2 more cycles, where I'll ask more in-depth questions about the length of H block, the frequency of H block, as well as the way students are spending their time during H block. And then finally, we, as I mentioned last year, we'll reconvene the schedule committee at the beginning of semester 2, so around or just after the December break, and we'll start having feedback sessions and reviewing data to make a determination of what the 2025-2026 schedule will look like. And then in terms of the late start, again, that's something that I'm still, because we've only had 1 late start when I started the survey, I'm still going to gain a lot more feedback as we roll out more. But I wanted to share with you what teachers are doing with that time. I thought that would be helpful. So the first PLC, teachers got the agenda from me, and it named a few things they needed to do. One is the PLCs were already designed before the end of last year. Name what their goal is for the year and how it will impact student success and achievement. Share with the staff, because everybody has access to this document, what evidence they're going to be collecting and how will they know if they reached their goal. And so these are some of the ones that you'll see, and there are around 25 PLCs in the building. Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. PLC is a professional learning community. So for those of you who were able to stay up late and watch my school committee presentation on PLCs that evening, it's a really important part of our growth as educators to work with each other, to review data, to review student achievement across all of our different disciplines, and even when we teach similar courses across different teachers, in order to ensure that we're truly meeting our kids' needs in terms of how we differentiate instruction, in terms of how we identify the specific skills and concepts in the standards that we want them to achieve by the end of the year, and measure the effectiveness of our teaching practices in their ability to achieve those skills and understand those concepts. So one of the English department goals is really specific around looking at MCAS data and using the very specific data on what types of questions our students are doing well on and where they're struggling, and making adjustments to our instructional practices in order to better support them in achieving those standards. The math department, I love this goal, is working on UDL, which is Universal Design for Learning. So it's providing students with a variety of different ways that they can demonstrate their understanding of skills in mathematics, and give them voice and choice in how they do that in the classroom. This is a great PLC. A group of people from different departments are really specifically looking at our multi-language learners and how we can support them in accessing the curriculum. Specifically, our students, having been, especially our students who move here from out of countries, our students have been exposed to US history for many, many years. And they come into high school, the only graduation requirement in history is US history, and they don't have the background knowledge that our students currently have in order to access just the prerequisite skills to enter into a US history classroom at the high school level. So they're looking at ways that we can support them to backfill that content that they're missing and find success in those US history classes. And then business and applied arts is really looking at the soft skills. Those are our foundational transfer goals. Like, what are the things that we want our kids to be able to do? Communicate effectively, think globally, innovate. How are they actually measuring students' abilities to do that in their classes? And making sure that we create assessments that are actually assessing those skills rather than content. So those are just some of the things that we're working on, and I'll continue to update you on the progress of those in my future updates to school committee. Okay, that's my brief overview. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know Marvel and Leah could also give you the lived experience from a student if they'd like to as well.
Yeah, so we'll start with Nancy or Jackie. And I'm turning around like you can
Yeah.
see me. Do you have any questions or comments for Kelly?
Jen, thank you. Mrs. Kavanaugh, I really appreciate this update. One of the questions I had, you said that you've had 2 late starts. How did the second one go as opposed to the first one?
Yeah. Oh, the second one was much smoother. The first one, there were some, definitely some delays in students getting into school. They didn't really time when to arrive correctly. But that was also with the efforts of our admin team requesting students follow specific traffic patterns in order to come into the school. We really needed to avoid RO drop-off and avoid Lothrop Street. And so I actually went outside during drop-off this last late start and noticed that it was much, much better this time. I definitely think it's a work in progress, the arrival time. But overall, the feedback from students has been really positive, that they like the late start morning. There's a lot of students in the library and in the cafeteria getting homework done together and eating breakfast in the morning together. It's been nice to watch.
That's great. And one other comment, as far as that H block, are you hearing that kids are enjoying, not enjoying maybe, but they're getting signed up and everything's going okay?
Yeah, yep. So students, we have an online software program that actually talks to our student information system. So attendance and where students are linked between our X2 Aspen system and our flexible learning scheduling system, and students have every day one right now. We're very structured in how we've rolled out this H block, so it's definitely something that can be very fluid, and some schools have their H blocks open for the entire year, and kids can start signing up all throughout the year. Right now we're doing it cycle by cycle, every day one, everybody signs up, They know where they're going for that 7-day cycle, and then we sign up again. And then we'll start getting some feedback, dipstick, some survey data on how open we want to make it after the first semester. But yeah, students are signing up. They're definitely, you walk around this building and you see them engaged in learning. And we've had multiple staff and students seek administration out to share the impact, the positive impact that that has had on their students' ability to access the curriculum and receive support during the day, especially those of our kids who either A, need to get home to go to work or take care of younger siblings, or are actively involved in clubs and activities and sports. They now have that time during the day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. DeLuca.
And Jackie, anything before I move on to other committee members?
No, thank you.
Lauren or
You can go first. It's fine. Okay. Just a couple questions from my end. So are you finding that kids are able to adjust their H block as needed? So they're booking on day one and then they realize, oh, I need help with this, right? I really need to go in and see this. I need to take this quiz. I need to do whatever. Is the fluidity of the schedule seeming to work well?
From my perspective, yes, and I would let you guys jump in if you want. They have the ability to change where they're going all the way up until the school day starts the day of that H block. So we like the teachers to know who's going to be in their room at the beginning of the morning. And students do change it, and teachers change it. If a student misses school one day, might say to the student, hey, do you want to come make up that quiz during H block, and they'll move the student for them.
And then the other question I had is, I've heard from a couple parents that there are times where teachers aren't available during H block due to like a department meeting or something like that.
I will, yeah.
What's happening there?
So I don't know if you remember, if you recall from the past, we had something called Tiger Block before we had H Block. And the reason we created Tiger Block was A, to create some time and space for students have voice and choice once a week in what they're doing. But secondarily, it is consistent practice in high schools that every department have a meeting frequently throughout the year in order to make sure that school-wide initiatives are being followed, everybody's on the same page in terms of either deadlines, policy, and procedures, or curricular and instructional material. As in this district, we don't have time built into our schedule to do that. So throughout the year, I reserved 5 H blocks for faculty for department meetings. So an entire department won't be available that one day. It's not ideal. I'd rather have teachers in that space, but the importance of department meetings for right now, I think that those 5 H blocks a year shouldn't impact the students' abilities to access their teachers, the other H blocks that are available.
Got it. So five times per year, each department has a meeting during H block, and those are scheduled out and they're off the H block.
They're all
calendar.
done for the year, yeah. So we knew what they were when the school year started.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Lauren, do you have any feedback?
So I came in this week during H block to meet with the student advisors, and it was nice because we met in the library, and Mr. Auger had students also meet in the library and had them also doing work simultaneously to when we were meeting, which was I imagine a challenge for him to balance, but it was done really well. So I appreciated that. I will say, as a parent from RO, the late start, from what I've heard from students at a OA, they love the time to sleep in, and that has been like the most amazing thing ever is what I've heard. But as a parent from RO, it's a traffic nightmare. And from my perspective, it wasn't better.
Okay. That's
yesterday.
helpful, thank you.
Sorry. And it's potentially going to be an accident waiting to happen because the cars get dropped, the students get dropped off in the middle of the street, and the RO parents who aren't used to that don't know that there's a car that's going to stop right in front of them, and so then you drive around them, and it doesn't end well. So maybe we could ask the police officers to direct traffic or something to improve it. I don't know what a solution is, but it is bad.
Okay. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And because I don't have the lived experience of a parent from RO, so that's really helpful. I think if it's okay, I'd like to just take some time to just talk with central office, talk with our school resource officer, and I'll look at our schedule too, like what is the drop-off time that we're asking, and see if there's adjustments that we could make there, and then get back to you.
Sure.
Okay.
And I think another easy solution would maybe, Mr. Getchell, if in your newsletter or you send out an email the night before advising parents that this is going to be a unusual amount of traffic in the morning, and have your kid take the bus or carpool or whatever to alleviate the congestion.
I will say, as the parent of someone who wanted to go to the cafeteria early to sit and eat lunch and eat breakfast with their friends, it was really easy to drop off early. So maybe as more parents figure out that they can navigate at 8:20 instead of the 8:49 time, it does. Yeah. So there was a stream coming in slowly of kids who actually got a few minutes to do homework and hang out. So it is nice for them that way. Perhaps if they do have, I know we had talked before about the ability for kids to have club meetings and other things during that window. If that initiates, it may create opportunity for more kids to come early and alleviate some of the traffic concerns.
Okay, and I don't want to put you two on the spot, but Marvel or Leah, if you have any comments, I think what you were telling me before the meeting was helpful.
I feel, as someone who's now transitioning into sophomore year, which is definitely very different from freshman year, in the previous year, Tiger Block was never something I utilized very often as a learning experience because I just never really needed it. But as the workload has gotten much larger in my sophomore year, I find myself scheduling a lot of my own teachers for H blocks, using that as times to make up tests, redo, and just study and get extra help, which I just did today as a day one. I'm scheduling all of my teachers for extra help, and it's been really helpful. And as for the late start, as a student who doesn't drive personally but does get driven with another student, it was very confusing for the both of us. This whole, going another way instead of going on Lothrop Street, which I think, as I believe it was Ms. Loomis who said, getting school officers to help direct that traffic would be really helpful. It was even stressful sitting in the passenger seat. So yeah, but I think overall H Block has been a really good experience so far, and I've seen my grades go way up since really learning how to use it. So that's what I wanted to say.
Leah. Thank you.
For the fluidity of scheduling H blocks that you were talking about, Ms. Bercio, sometimes, this is personal experience, sometimes I forget to do the second H block all the time. So I'll do both of them on a day one, and then I'll be I actually don't need to go to this teacher anymore, but I do need to go do, make up a math test with my math teacher, and then I forget to switch them. So what ends up happening is sometimes, how I'll have to get booked in, the teachers have to, or however it happens from admin, they book you into a classroom. Sometimes teachers are okay with you being hey, I need to go make up a test here, and I'm all fine with your work. Do you mind me going? And then they'll be yeah, sure. And obviously you come back by the end, or sometimes. Yeah, I think that's that was my main thing. I feel teachers are also really flexible with H block. So obviously you stick by the guidelines, and I still have my phone up in the phone pocket, so it's all good. But yeah, there's that. And then for the I had a question about for the goals. Do you see that being recognizable by students, or is that just supposed to be something that's behind the scenes?
Oh, the PLC goals?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Because I think you guys deserve to know what we're doing, right? So it would be, so the data, the evidence they're providing on the impact of their work on this goal is something I'm going to share publicly here. In terms of you guys knowing that, that's definitely something that I'd love to talk with you about. How would that be, how could students best receive that information in a way that doesn't feel like I'm just talking at them, but giving them some really cool insight into what their teachers are doing.
Okay. And then my last question was, This is partially motivated by like wanting to sleep in a little more, but like, would it be better to have like a later late start day? Like, is that like a possible?
Wise girl.
I will teach you how to calculate time on learning. And I, Marvel, will sit down and see if we can bump it out a little later.
I think she's going to figure out a way to shorten the extended advisory day that she's
Yep.
off
Yes.
the background. To get the time on learning.
I mean, I'm fine with starting at 10 and ending at 10.
I feel like one thing that I've noticed with the later starts is obviously there is no advisory, which the day is technically shorter, but it does feel like it drags on a lot longer.
Yeah, that break
Having all
makes
of
it.
those classes back to back, which even the short advisories does feel like a much needed brain break for myself. It's not even scrolling or anything, maybe just like taking a nap.
Yeah.
Or watching a quick show, just really like letting myself de-stress. And that's one thing that I noticed, especially yesterday with the second late start, where it really hit me that I slept in later, but this day felt so long because all of my classes were back to back.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting feedback. Thank you.
Great. All right, well, thank you for the
Yeah.
presentation. I know that, when you had proposed this, we had asked for follow-up, and as always, you continually exceed our expectations in terms of data and rigor and feedback and collaboration. So this has been hugely helpful, and I think this conversation has been really helpful as well. So hopefully that's been valuable to you as well.
Absolutely,
And we
really
look forward to the
valuable.
next set of updates.
And if there's anything specific you want me to cover in the next set of updates, please let me know, but I'll make sure to definitely address what we talked about this evening. Okay. All right, thank you.
That sounds great, thank you. All right, so we return to the table. Next up on the agenda, we have a discussion of Buildings and Grounds Management Policy File EC, and this is our first reading. Dr. Cabral?
Thank you. I believe this is a quick and easy one. I can't believe I just said that. Hopefully, I do believe it's quick and easy, but let's see. No pressure. This policy is about using the grounds, and while I don't have substantive content recommendations, you will note that it says that this falls under the purview of the administrative assistant to the superintendent, as opposed to the director of facilities and operations. And so, as we,
Lynn, did you know that was in your job?
Unless you would like to keep that, we recommend changing that to the director of facilities and operations, who,
seems
despite
much
her
more
many
suitable.
miraculous feats and talents, is better poised to handle such requests and problems. So that's our recommendation. I will just remind you that the school committee policy has, it's very long, it's very dense, it changes frequently because of laws. This is obviously not that case, but it is a lot to go through, and we're continually doing that. And as we come across things like this, we just want to bring them to your attention for correction.
Nancy and Jackie, any feedback on this one, or concerns or anything before?
No, I looked back on the work Nancy and I had done for COVID on the policies, and we didn't have any other comments on this policy, so.
Okay. All right, great. So we will then schedule this for a second reading and a vote. Okay. All right, well, thank you. Oh, any questions from the committee? Sorry. No? Okay. All right, so we will see that again soon. And now up is October 1st enrollment. Dr. Cabral?
So annually, we provide you with the district enrollment with 2 additional years of longitudinal data for you to compare it to. We are presenting this once again. I will just remind you, as I always do, that if you want to take a look at cohort growth, you can move from the right to the left horizontally. If you're looking for the growth of or the diminishment of a particular cohort over time, for example, a kindergarten class, as it moves to a first grade class, you would start on the right and then move diagonally down one to the left, and so forth. So if you have any questions or comments about this, we'll either answer them this evening or get more information for you.
So our 8th to 9th trend looks pretty consistent, right? A little
Yes.
over 30.
It's typically between 30 and 40 students a year. We have students that will go to private schools. Sometimes they'll go to a specialized school for vocational technical, and others for different sports opportunities. So 30 to 40 is typical. It's actually lower than it has been in years past.
Dr. Cabral,
Yes.
do we have the numbers on how many students are going to Southeastern, Bristol County Aggie, or the Foxborough Charter School?
I do. I don't have them this evening, but I can get those to you.
Okay, thank you.
Also, Dr. Pearl, do we have the number of students? I know we have the IEP homeschooled. How many students in Easton are homeschooled?
We do have that too. Mrs. Pruitt takes supervision of that. I don't know if she has the number this evening, but we can get that for you also.
Thank you.
Okay. So that was three follow-ups. So the total homeschool, the Bristol Agricultural and Southeastern Regional. I apologize, Jackie. I know you had.
That's okay, and the Foxborough Charter School too.
Oh, and charter.
Yes, I have the Bristol Aggie, Southeastern Regional Vocational, Foxborough Charter School, and homeschool students.
I can tell you, we have 24 homeschool students.
Thank you, Mrs. Pruitt.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
This might be a silly question, but how did these get calculated?
This is not silly at all. Thank you for asking. So we have all of our students in our X2 student information system, and the Department of Education actually pulls those numbers right from our system, and they do it every year on October 1st, conceivably to make sure everybody who's going to come into school is in school and settled. And that's we call it the October 1st report. October 1st is a big day for us because all of the metrics across the state are typically set to October 1st. So that it's kind of apples to apples year to year. They do it again in May, but October 1st is used for a lot of things like reporting back to us so that we can do our check and balance and make sure it's accurate, but also for things like funding, how much we receive as a district. It's by per pupil, grants that we're eligible, things like that. So October 1st is actually a big report for us.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I also just share one thing with you about students that are homeschooled? We do have, students that are homeschooled also have the right to attend activities here in Easton, in the Easton Public Schools. So oftentimes we do have homeschool students that might attend a specialist class, or at the high school they might attend a class. That is not counted in our enrollment numbers. So I just wanted to note that as well. I can think of a handful right now that are participating in coursework during the day that are not calculated in these numbers.
It is usually, as she noted, typically in the higher grades, advanced foreign language class, a class that has a lab, for example, that's very difficult for some people to do at home, but also by state regulations, they're allowed to participate in MIAA sports, things of that nature. So that's not unusual for us.
And just because I realize we're looking at this in numbers for the public who may be looking later, don't have the actual numbers in front of us. So, so the total enrollment for grades PK to 12, including our students who are educated beyond grade 12 through special services programs, is 3,363. And then with our students who are outplaced or homeschooled with IEPs or through virtual academies, it's 3,408. And that is a small decrease from both last year and the year before. So enrollment is down, let's see, 52 total from last year and then 14 from
The year before.
the year before that. Yeah. So although we do have, there's a perception that classes are growing and that enrollment is up, and that is true in some pockets, especially with the younger grades. Overall, enrollment is actually pretty steady or declining.
That is correct.
Yeah. And that's been a long-term trend.
It has been.
And
Yes,
it's a
ever
state
since-
trend as well.
It
not
is.
just an Easton trend.
It's a population trend, actually, as well.
Yep.
We are seeing a small bump in our pre-K and K students. And so we are hopeful that that bump will move through the system. We typically have our students stay once they enter the system. And so just our experience would tell us that that's the case. And so we hope to see that trend changing. Increased enrollment is better for us as a district. It's better for us financially in terms of qualifying for state funding. And so, and we're in the business of kids and love having them. So we are hopeful that that will be a changing trend.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions?
I just had one more question.
Is there any way that like well, obviously you use this data to like, like you said, like funding, but is there any way that you use this data like besides like it's like monetary value, is there a way to, for instance, like, see these trends and be like, oh, like these trends could be possible because we do this at this school or like something like that? Oh yes, especially between middle school and high school. You remember we have put in a phenomenal open house for OA. That was a result of seeing some numbers changing and students electing not to go to OA, and we realized when we were collecting some data and talking to students that even students who had been here from K to 8 really didn't understand what we offered at the high school. And we kind of thought they did because they would see the sports or see things that were offered. And so we've started offering that, and it actually made a big difference. So something like that, for example. We also use it particularly in the elementary grades to pay attention to class sizes. So if we are getting an influx of kindergarten students, for example, we may need to add another kindergarten section. The pre-K class, those little 3-year-olds, they come in, unlike any other grade, they come in when they turn 3. So that could be, we gain a lot of pre-K students from September until June. So sometimes we get so many, we have to create another section. So there are a few applications we use it for, and it's really insightful that you would think of that. Thank you. And by the way, we have this October 1st report for the school committee, but I receive a report from the Department of Education every month. Gotcha. And so we actually track that monthly, not just annually on October 1st. Okay, thank you. Sure.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, great. Thank you. Thank you for the update and the info and the good discussion. All right. Next up, we have our student representative to the school committee update. Marvel?
Yes, so Leah's actually going to start today.
Great.
Hi, I'm Leah Evora. I'm a 10th grader at OA, and I'm just really excited to be able to provide more student voice in the school committee. Starting with Blanche Ames, they are focusing on providing support for students where needed, as well as behavioral intervention during unstructured periods like lunch, recess, and bus rides. By popular demand, we're adding a little highlight for their Golden Bus Award. This month, students on Bus 1 won the Golden Bus Award for great bus behavior, so a big shout out to them. And Blanche Ames has some exciting events coming up in the next few months, including their trunk or treat. So we're just looking forward to that. And at RO, I'm excited to attend Richardson Olmsted School's Citizens of the Month ceremony to talk with some students to get to know with how they feel the school year is going. Another thing that we know is they are doing a joint Spirit Week with Blanche Ames instead of their parade, which is something that I will be excited to get some more student feedback on. And that's about all we have in that department. Moving on to Marvel.
Right, so for the middle school, do you guys have any questions for Blanche and RO? Sorry. For the middle school, the 6th grade students, have found their way into the middle school, which is always great. They are, attempting to get, they're attempting to get acclimated to their lockers, new teachers, and classes, and, they really are enjoying and, feeling that increased sense of responsibility, and, all, the new workload that EMS brings. They particularly, a lot of people enjoyed focus block, so they got to catch up on their homework, and that's something new from, RO in elementary school, of course, where you don't, need it as much, and they like the idea of, getting extra help in this kind of, again, this sense of independency. Obviously, per usual, a lot of people were disappointed about not having any more recess, so that's going to happen to the best of us. But at the end of the day, the 6th grade is pretty satisfied. 7th graders, they had their career day, and we're working on getting more information on how, our feedback on how they enjoyed it, or what they would like to see next time for the future pathways / career day. And then the 8th graders had a lot of constructive feedback that we are going to further analyze, and where we have Brendan Dolan at the middle school. He's a freshman at the OA. He's doing an amazing job. He's going to go meet with administration, and he's going to see where there's communication that lacks between, 8th grade's kind of misconceptions and what's going on in admin. And then, and that's obviously going to be presented as well, because when we were meeting with Ms. Loomis, Ms. Loomis brought the idea that, it is good to see, we're not always, this is actually one of our goals last year, we're not always just here to kind of praise what's going on, because obviously we do want to highlight the good things in the public schools, but we also want to emphasize the things that, students are seeing, and kind of, identify these misconceptions and miscommunications. And then for the high school, Ms. Kavanaugh kind of covered it all, and then we kind of also as well. The implementation of the new schedule in H block has been received positively by a majority of the students. Our senior Franklin Chen, he's on the high school for the student advisory board, and personally he says that he really loves the meeting. There's a lot of equity in meeting with teachers, because he's got to meet with Mr. Schussler, because Mr. Schussler has these things called one-on-one meetings, and he loves that he can do it during H block instead of after school, where he can't really stay after school, or before school, when students can't really get there for transportation reasons. And then last year, if you guys can recall, one of our student advisory board goals was to have some sort of peer tutoring, and we were hoping to start it at the high school, and then hopefully bring it down to all the schools, so we can kind of have this interconnectedness while keeping it to education. And this year, NHS is going to implement this tutoring system where students can get one-on-one tutoring from their peers. This is different from before, where you can get service hours from NHS. Before it was kind of okay, if you need service hours, you can ask a teacher hey, do you need any, do any of your students need help? This time we're gonna try to make it a little more globalized in the high school, and hopefully that will get good feedback as well. And then, this is a little packed, sorry guys, for senior privilege. Senior privilege at the high school is also received positively for students, because obviously you have a lot of people doing work, while at the same time there's a lot of relaxation and helping teachers, and obviously if you have permission you get to leave earlier. If you get to leave early if you have it at the end of the day, and then you get to come in late if you had it at the beginning of the day. And then Franklin, had a personal note. He says that he gets to play basketball with his friends, forming closer relationships. And I think that just emphasizes this idea that school isn't always only about education. It's also about networking, or getting, building these social, just social development in its entirety. And I think that senior privilege, it's kind of been undermined in that aspect, whereas people are all these kids are either on their phone or doing work, but it's actually oh no, these kids are actually building relationships with others, getting to meet others, and it's been great on its own. And then lastly, each grade has had, officially has had an assembly where, you get to the Miss Kavanaugh, Mr. Mastro, Mr. Flanagan, and, all the other amazing staff. They got to, explain some stuff throughout the school year and opportunities or programs, whether it's about college or clubs or whatever it may be. And then for the upperclassmen especially, it's been duly noted about the early college and access. A lot of the upperclassmen had good feedback and appreciated that the pathways and careers after high school and the help from guidance. The Google Classrooms and all that has been going great for the seniors. And then the only feedback that we actually discussed before, and we've been talking to Ms. Kavanaugh about, is the repetitive nature of these assemblies, especially if you're a senior. You've done them 4 years now, so Ms. Kavanaugh and admin have been working on making it either more interactive, adding new things, or glossing over things that they know that students have already experienced for 4 years, but obviously you have to make sure you say them every 4 years. But yeah, that's all. We're planning on, getting more feedback from all of the schools. But if you guys have any questions, I know I said a lot, and Leah obviously did an amazing job. But if you guys have any questions, or if you want us to focus on something specific, our advisory board had a meeting with Ms. Loomis, like we mentioned. It was really, really productive, and we can't wait to have more.
Great. Any committee members, any questions, comments, or feedback for Marvel and Leah?
I think your update reminds us how valuable it is to have you here and provide those updates. So very appreciated.
And we really enjoy it, and I don't ever want you to feel rushed, so please
Yes,
feel
no,
free to
agreed.
take your time.
Sorry, I started speed talking because it was just a lot of
Okay, but you never have to make an excuse for having a lot of information. You're welcome here, and you have a role just like we do, and we want you to take your time.
Thank
It
you.
is definitely a highlight of the meeting, so thank you.
I love the peer tutoring, and I can't wait to hear how it's going and the progress it's making.
I'll make sure to emphasize that.
And I love that, every time you bring these updates to us, it demonstrates how seriously all of you on the advisory committee are taking your role and the amount of work that you're doing and putting into to getting out to the schools, to meeting with the principals, to talking to students, getting the feedback. So I'm just always so impressed with the work that you do, and that you're squeezing in yet another responsibility into schedules that we know are very busy, and that you take on a lot of responsibility already. So
The student advisory board does so much of the work. I wish you knew. They do an amazing job.
that's great to hear. All right, well, great update. Thank you so much, both of you. All righty. And then some housekeeping schedule of payments. So since the committee last met, warrant 014 has been completed, and 01S is in process, and both of those were for routine operating expenses. Okay. So next up we have public comment. So before I launch into a lot of details on public comment, are any members of the public here who do intend to offer a comment during this period? Okay, so we have 1, 2. Okay, all right, great. So per our policy, comments are limited to 3 minutes total per speaker. Before you speak, we'll ask you to just state your name and address for our minutes. There is a microphone set up here that if you're comfortable, if you prefer to stay where you are, we can bring the microphone to you, or you may come up and speak. And so before we get into public comment, I did want to mention that something came to our agenda is posted 48 hours in advance. There's an issue of emerging interest that has just come up in the past couple of days that we understand we've gotten some public inquiry about it. So I did want to ask Dr. Cabral to give an update or some commentary on the questions that we have been receiving as school committee members on the Halloween plans for Blanche Ames /RO, the Spirit Week, et cetera. So if you want to take a minute to address that, and then we can get to audience questions or public comment.
Happy to. So I am really proud to work in a district where we have so many great opportunities for students, like the Golden Bus. We acknowledge students, we acknowledge staff, and we have a lot of opportunities for celebration and for participation, more than I would argue, at least in my 35-year experience, most other schools and districts. We're really happy about that because, Marvel, I agree with you, and I think many people do, that community is really important. It's part of what makes Easton Public Schools very special. We have, well, I can't take credit. The principals of RO and BA have a really wonderful, inclusive idea for the last week of October, and that is Spirit Week. And I completely wholeheartedly support it. I think it's great. It involves a different activity every day of the week, including Crazy Sock Day, Pajama Day, and certain colors to be worn each day. We take advantage of opportunities for us to come together as a community, and I think that is a really good way to do that. They are starting on October 28th, and there's something each day of the week. And EMS and OA are actually going to join them on a Spirit Day on October 31st, where they are going to wear our school colors, black and orange, because that is what BA and RO have going on that day. I'm excited to see a PK through 12 district-wide coming together, and Marvel's shaking her head, so.
Oh yeah, I've heard a little bit about it. I'm not as educated on it just yet, but from student council's perspective, you know, Spirit Week has always been something amazing at OA, and it's something that I feel like every grade should experience. So we were kind of saying, like, what if it was just a whole EPS like Spirit Day? Like, that would just be so, you know, it would just be really happy. Like, I feel like you walk down the halls and you know, see everyone else on a Spirit Day, and then you go to another school and it's just like the same thing. I feel like it's
You're
very
right, we've never
wholesome.
done it as an entire district.
Right.
And so I think it's a great opportunity, and we're really excited about it. So we have gotten, to your point, we have gotten questions about what that means for Halloween, because that is October 31st, and littles have had different experiences in the past on that. We would really like everybody to join us on our Spirit Week. We feel as though, especially in Blanche Ames, and certainly Mr. Cedarbaum can join me if he would like and comment at all, but it has been, the wearing of costumes and actually during the day has been disruptive to education. Anybody that has a small child will know that wearing a face mask or fake hands when you're trying to write can be like really disruptive. We have students who are wearing costumes where they need help putting it on or off if they don't want to wear it anymore, or if they have to use the restroom, and it really is a disruption to the day. We have people, littles who wield props, and you know, Thor's hammer is really cool, but sometimes in school it's not cool. And so we are hoping that we can celebrate the week together as a Spirit Day with pre-K through 12. And we're, as I said, encouraging everybody to take advantage of it with us. I would like to personally add, and professionally as a member of the leadership team in the district, that we also have people in our Easton family that don't have resources to get costumes, or maybe have different religious or cultural expressions at that time. And we feel like this follows our values and our new vision and our mission and our equity statement in our district, that we want to be all inclusive. And we're hoping that this is fun for everybody, as Marvel said. We have a dress code policy, so if parents choose to send their children in something else, if they don't want to participate, this is not forced family fun, that we ask that everybody, as every other day, follow the dress code. There is a district dress code, but there's also a different one at the different schools to be consistent with developmental needs, and that is in the student handbook. And so I also want to commend the principals for coming up with some creative ways to incorporate the costumes, like Trunk or Treat at Blanche Ames, which is taking place. For anybody who would like to go to that, that's always a fun event for them. The middle school also has a dance, Monster Bash or Mash?
Bash, right? Bash.
Okay.
Yep.
I like MASH, but that's okay.
The English teacher alliteration.
No, more an administrator of many kids. Just Monster Mash sounds a little.
Song.
I'm not that old. She really likes doing that. That's okay. It's okay. I can take it. So, you know, as an inclusive community, and as one that wants to create more opportunities for us to do things pre-K through 12, and make it so that school is super fun, as it always is, but we also are productive, because that's really why we're here also. We are encouraging people to hopefully take part with us, and we're encouraging all staff. I will be doing it. We think it will be fun, and we hope it will create a new tradition that all of our students, when they get all the way up to the high school, are used to doing with one another as a United School community. So we're really excited about it. We encourage school committee members to do it, and who knows, maybe it'll be something that will take off for the community too. We love having people represent the Easton Public Schools.
Okay, all right, great. All right, so public comment. So who would like to this? We've got two folks, I think, who'd raise their hands, and we can, maybe Lynn, if you could just pass the microphone unless you want to come to the front. Okay. Thank you. So just a reminder, so name and address, please.
Thank you. My name is Mike McDonough, 14 Cedar Drive. I'm here to make some comments about Halloween. I love the idea of Spirit Week. I just hope we can add Halloween back into it because everything Dr. Cabral just talked about, there's a lot of good there, but I think we just add Halloween and it'll be a lot better. So I saw the announcement when it came out in the newsletter last weekend, I think it was the 6th, that Halloween was no longer going to be celebrated. So that caught my eye that weekend. I noticed that the announcement was buried halfway down through the email, so it was almost like, hopefully people don't see this, or maybe it's just not a big deal, but really it is quite a big deal. It's a tradition that's been in our community for many, many years. I have two older kids in high school. I have a first grader. My older kids, it was always their favorite day, their favorite tradition. And now my younger one, she wants to have the same experience. So earlier this week, I emailed Dr. Cabral for some information about why this decision was made, how it was made, and frankly, how we can undo the decision and bring Halloween back. The explanation was similar to, as she stated here tonight, some points about face masks. Well, masks have never been permitted as far as I can remember. Props have been allowed for the parade, but not for the rest of the day. As for comfort and those sorts of things, I know my kids at least, they always brought a change of clothes so they didn't have to wear their costume all day and they could be comfortable. Also, the disruption from learning and the comment that teachers are not really keen on this idea. I don't really buy that. From all of the teachers I've ever spoken to, they love it, and in fact, many of them, dress themselves in a costume for the day. So I'm not really sure about that. So I'm happy to know that the crux of the decision was things that I think can be sorted out pretty easily, like maybe having some clear guidelines for parents on how. What sort of costumes can be worn, how they can be worn, what to avoid, what not to wear. Also happy to know it's not a district decision, and it was RO and Blanche Ames, and so to me that's not really a policy set in stone, and it can probably fairly easily be reversed. Beyond the fact that it's being replaced with a week-long event, and if we're talking about cost of costumes, we're talking about cost of outfits for 5 days versus one day. So to me, it's all been spun as sort of no big deal, but I think for two big reasons it is a big deal. One, it's a big tradition in our community, and it's going to exclude people. When we eliminate this, it's going to divide people. I hope everybody in this room is well aware of what's happening on social media and the comments. I wish a lot of those people showed up here tonight. So I'm trying to understand, I guess, a little bit more about how this, maybe how this decision can be turned back and reversed. And I guess I'd end by saying the second reason why I think it's a big deal, not just for our community, but also for my first grader who got her costume this weekend from Amazon, and she's going to be a friendly vampire. So she put on her costume. She was very proud of it, wanted to take pictures, wanted to do FaceTime with everybody to show them. And the first thing she said is, when can we wear it to school? I want to show my friends. I want to see what they're going to wear. So to me, it's going to be pretty devastating if I have to tell her that she and her friends can't have a little bit of time in school where they can wear a costume and celebrate Halloween. So thank you for listening. I appreciate your time.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay.
I know it's not a Q&A, but I just want to correct any misunderstandings, if that's possible.
Sure, yes, go ahead. Thank
Okay.
you. Yep.
I just want to correct myself. I did not mean that the decision was on the principals. The district is not me. The district is our district leadership team. And we discussed it and we all agreed with one another. That's what we mean by district. I wanted to give them credit for the Spirit Week idea because I didn't come up with that, they did, and I think it's very creative. So we did discuss this at length as a district, and I just want to make sure that I clear that up because I don't want to make it seem like I don't support the principals or that they did something on their own that I don't agree with. This is a group made up of all of our central office administration as well as all of our principals. They are very seasoned professionals, very experienced parents, well aware of child development, really good at what they do and make your kids love school. And I just want to make sure that I didn't misspeak on that. I just want to correct that. I also want to say that what people may not be aware of is that Mr. Cedarbaum in particular had this conversation with his PAC last year very openly. So you certainly are entitled to your opinion, but I personally do not believe that Mr. Cedarbaum would ever bury something so that people wouldn't see it, because I know for a fact they had that conversation to try to prepare for this year and to let them know that it was problematic in the school. I assure you that Mr. Cedarbaum works on data and meets with all of his staff, and while some staff, I can't say that they disagree because I don't personally know, but I'm sure that he has the best interest of students in the school. While we have had a parade, we also have had time where children got into their costumes and out of their costumes. That means we stopped class for that, and we don't have that plan this year. And so children would conceivably be in their costumes all day, which is something that is different, and that's why we try to consider their comfort in that way. So I just want to make sure I didn't misspeak and that you understood it differently than I meant to say it.
Thank you. And somebody.
Hi, Crystal Parento, 42 Kennedy Circle. Different topic entirely. I just wanted to first commend you, Mrs. Kavanaugh, for the data collection that you're doing. I remember watching a school committee last year and just being like at home like, yes, because you were trying to gather data so that you could make informed decisions about what is best for our students. And then just a suggestion, I don't know that I entirely understand the PLC goals, but you did mention a subset of teachers who are looking into or making goals for the multilingual students, I think it was. I would just say possibly if there's ever room in the future to maybe look at like the social emotional group of students where their learning can be greatly impacted by some of their social emotional needs. If there's any way we can make goals for like teachers and paras of like how they can better meet their kind of needs in the classroom. That was just a suggestion that I had in terms of PLC goals. Hopefully that applies. Not sure it does, but you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Sure, yeah, if you, yeah.
All of our special education liaisons, so your academic support teachers, as well as the paraprofessionals, their PLC is working on writing specific, looking at rubrics to assess students' abilities to self-advocate, self-management, and time management. So it really is those key, like if you know what the castle wheel is, those are like the important features of social emotional learning. They're looking at how they're going to build that into their special education department. Now, I know that's not all students, but at least at a minimum, our students who do have those needs, that's their goal. So that's kind of, we're on the same page. We have a similar mindset. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? Great, thank you. Thank you both for coming and for offering your comments, very valuable. Okay, all right, so next up we have superintendent notes. Dr. Cabral?
Thank you. I do have, I'm going to limit it because I do have one item that I need to ask you to schedule a meeting. The reason is we are having, let me just go backwards in case people are not familiar with this. We have been working on a Richardson Olmsted Playground project where we were able to secure funding from the Community Preservation Committee for the playground for North and South behind Richardson Olmsted. If you remember, the town meeting appropriates the funding for those projects, and at town meeting, there was an amendment from the floor, and it was voted that the surfacing needed to be to fall within some very specific guidelines. After a really exhaustive vetting of materials in order to be fully universal for all of our students to be able to access it physically, specifically, we went with a product called Corkine. Unfortunately, the first playground, the North Playground, has been finished, but we have serious failures in the Corkine, and the company has not been able to, number one, determine the origin of the problem, and certainly number two, fix it. We right now have what they have deemed a complete system failure on the Corkine, and I believe the company is flying somebody in from Portugal where it originates, and they are working to try to rectify the situation. Unfortunately, we have had a lot of delays from them in answering us and being non-responsive since we got that information from them. And I believe at this point it is going to cause significant delays in both the South Playground and if we do have to shut down the North Playground if it becomes a hazard. What I can tell you is that there are large cracks and holes in the Corkine. It is, the system is failing. And so it becomes a trip hazard. It becomes a hazard if a child falls in an area where the Corkine is compromised. And so we are working really quickly and really hard with the manufacturer, but also with the general contractor to try to come up with some alternatives and some different pathways. One of them involves a really tight timeline that I would like to discuss with you and be able to get input on before we move forward. But we would need to have a discussion of that nature before the 21st of October, which means we would need a meeting at some point next week, if possible, where I could give you more specific information. And if I am able at that time to get more information, I'll give you up to the minute information. And we're gonna need to make some decisions on, I have recommendations for you, but I need your feedback on them if you agree or not, and how you would like us to move forward with the continuation of the South project and remediation of the North project.
Okay. Okay, thank you. School committee takeaway from that. So let's see, so if we were to, the earliest we could meet is Wednesday.
Because Monday is a holiday.
That's right. Okay, so the earliest we could meet is Monday. So
Tuesday.
Right, so we can meet.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Wednesday.
Wednesday,
Pardon
okay,
me.
okay.
Pardon me.
That's okay. All right, so the earliest we can meet is Monday. So Nancy and Jackie, if you could maybe send me your availability, and then those of us who are in person can take a couple minutes at the end of, after the meeting adjourns, to consult our calendars, and we can get something on the schedule ASAP. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, anything else, Dr. Cabral?
No, either Wednesday or Thursday would work. Friday would also work. I know people probably want to avoid Friday, but for the school department, for me, that would work.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, of course, yes, yep.
I do have a question regarding the Corkine and decisions that we make, since the Corkine was part of a town meeting and it was put into the warrant
Yes.
that the town approved. So do we have jurisdiction to,
Part of what we'll discuss.
okay.
Exactly. That's what I would like to tell you about, is what,
Okay.
any potential options that we do have for moving forward with that
Okay.
in mind.
Yeah, given the constraint that, yeah, yep, yes, we can hash all that. Just where it's not a
Agenda
meeting,
item.
agenda item for tonight, we don't want to get into too many details and.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
just can't over-present stuff, so
Right.
we'll post
Well,
a
I can
meeting.
inform you, but,
yeah.
and I can, if I can get more details, I will send them before that meeting
Yep.
for you to review. I can provide just information with no response or discussion. I don't have a lot of that right now, but I will give you whatever I have. What I really need is to just tell you as soon as possible that we need that meeting, and it's short notice, and I apologize, but it is part of one of the timelines, and I don't want to lose that for you as one of your options when we meet.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Great question.
It is.
All right, any, Nancy or Jackie, before we move on, any questions on that? Not hearing any? Okay, all right. So next up, Assistant Superintendent notes. Mrs. Pruitt?
Thank you so much. I do want to share with you that tomorrow, our students that took the MCAS last year, we do have the student reports, and they will be going home via mail tomorrow. So please expect those within the next week. The student report, so your individual child's report. There is a letter going home out via Parent Square tomorrow explaining that the letters are coming home. So if not all grade 3 through 12 parents are watching the school committee, they will be still notified that the reports are coming home. Just also a reminder that next Tuesday is our professional development day, so students will not be in session, will not be in school. However, teachers and paraprofessionals will be in attendance for our professional development day, focused on our security, as well as an introduction to multi-tiered systems of support, which is the MTSS model that we will be partaking on over the next 3 years. Lastly, I just want to share, as you know, hearing all the updates going on for things that have been going on. I've had the pleasure of sitting in on some data meetings this past week, especially at Blanche Ames, where their theme was pumpkin spice, so our data is nice. And Miss Finn had some wonderful pumpkin pie baking skills that she was, and Mr. Cedarbaum with his baking as well, of pumpkin themed meetings. But regardless of the fun in the atmosphere for the staff, it was really great to hear the conversations that were occurring. Mrs. Kavanaugh was highlighting a lot of the PLCs that are going on at the high school. Those conversations happen daily throughout our schools with our teachers. I was able to participate at the beginning of our kindergarten data meeting. I understand that there was a really fruitful, wonderful conversation around assessments in kindergarten that I wasn't able to finish up with, but just hearing the wonderful conversations that are occurring and the actual instructional changes that are being made that are data-driven is really important to note. It's also, I also just have to highlight today, and I know one of you will talk about our professional teacher status ceremony this afternoon, but a teacher did come up to me and said that I need to go into her classroom, as this is the second year of implementation of our Wit and Wisdom literacy program. She told me that I would be blown away by the proficiency skills of her students. And she was a pilot teacher as well. And she said, "You thought that class was good? Wait till you come into this one." And so, you know, it's really exciting to see the excitement in the staff and the excitement in our students as well. I still do have students that piloted that are now at Richardson Olmsted that I went into a room once and I asked them which program they wanted, and this one particular student wanted another program, and he was very upset with me that we chose this program, and he still brings it up when I see him. But anyway, but I just wanted to share that with you, that, you know, that we are heading in a really great direction. It's not easy, and there's definitely bumps in the road, and we are making tweaks and changes as necessary. But I really want to commend our staff for hanging in there and really giving all of the initiatives chances, and having trust and faith in the process, because the outcomes, we are seeing it in the outcomes. Also with the MCAS information, just so you know, I will be booking with Lynn an MCAS presentation within the next month. so that we can get that data out to the public as soon as possible about our growth and achievements.
Great.
That's all I have.
Any questions for Mrs. Pruitt? Great, thank you. So school committee, Nancy, any?
Okay, yes, thank you. I'm sorry I can't be there tonight, but I didn't want to share my germs with all of you. First of all, if anybody has family, friends in Florida, Alicia, I hope your parents are okay. But, you know, we've got like 30 people down there that we were praying for last night. So hope everybody is okay on my side. So I'm glad for that. I'm glad I don't live in Florida, to tell you the truth. Congratulations to the professional status candidates that had their ceremony tonight. I love that ceremony, but again, nobody needs my germs there. Jackie and I will be at a policy meeting Thursday, so hopefully this gets the ball rolling and we can get on a good roll as far as finishing up our policy book. Reminder, Easton residents, that Paperback Junction is closing. So if you have gift cards or anything, you need a book, everything's 20% off. They're just a fabulous group of people down there. So I hope you can get there. On Sunday, October 20th, so a week from Sunday, the Iron Tigers, which is OA's robotics team, is having a fundraiser, which is kind of fun. Well, that's fundraiser, right? Get it? But it's at 311 Depot Street, which is SP Enterprises. They sell cars and trailers. It's right down the street from Fernandes Lumber. And the All Fired Up Barbecue crew is going to be selling chicken, ribs, briskets, pulled pork, coleslaw, beans, potato salad, mac and cheese, and cornbread, all very delicious. And it's to to help the Iron Tigers as they start competition in the spring, but they need funds all the way through. And it's funny, there was a volleyball car wash at the Bank of Easton last week and this and that. So, I mean, lots of fundraising going on. And then a couple other dates. On Friday, October 25th is Make a Difference Day for Lindley Menard at the RO school. And there's lots of activities. I'll talk more about that at the next meeting. And then 2 dates townwide that you need to remember. Voting. November 5th, no school that day. That's the second PD day. But please get out and vote. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. And then special town meeting is November 18th at the high school, starting at 7 p.m. Every year we have our annual town meeting in May, and then a special town meeting, usually October, November. This year it's November 18th. That's it for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Nancy. All right, Jackie.
Hope you feel better.
Yes.
Well, it's always hard following Nancy, so I have no comments tonight.
Okay. All righty. Lauren?
I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Halloween. Although I really appreciate the Spirit Week, and I love the idea of the Spirit Day. I think it's really sad for the littles that they can't dress up. And I'm not a teacher, but I really don't think that the teachers have an issue with it. From everything that I've ever heard, that the teachers love that day too. I also have a concern with the kids not dressing up during the day and then having trunk or treat when that's up to the families to get them to trunk or treat. What happens to the parent that is working late and can't take them, or the parent that doesn't want to take them, or the child that has sensory issues and doesn't like crowds, or doesn't want to be outside? In an effort to be inclusive, I don't think this is being inclusive by not having dress up during the day. That's it.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks. Kelly?
Sure. So I had a few things to share, but I'll start with echoing much of Lauren's feedback on Halloween. I have a lot of concerns about it as well. I do agree with Lauren. I worry about the inclusivity elements of creating events that require participation outside of school. Kids expect to see each other there, they talk about it, they discuss it. It puts pressure on families, it puts pressure, the same pressure or more pressure on families that don't have costumes to then figure out how to get there, how to juggle other kids, how to hire childcare and support, how to manage all of that and have the costumes because that is their only moment to participate. I think it's fun that the middle school is doing the monster, whatever they termed it. Bash, but I think that also is an event that creates a lot of strife and drama because kids try to create costumes that are team costumes, group costumes. Someone's left out, someone's hurt, someone gets evicted from the group. It's a lot of stress and it becomes the only place in which they celebrate. I worry about that. I worry that it is not the best environment for them. And quite frankly, while I agree with the feedback on Spirit Week being very powerful and important for the schools to come together, I echo the comments that it creates a lot of strain on families. We don't have any silly socks in our house, but I guarantee we'll need to get some. And that is part of the strain that it adds to that time period and that time crunch. So I don't know what options there are. I don't know if parent volunteers who are quarried could come in and help with costume changes and some of the other pieces. I don't know if you could stagger parades throughout the day. I think it's fair to call on the community to help if it is creating a strain, but I do think that I have concerns about the nature of it, and I think the knock-on effects of the change in policy on it. So I know it's not a policy. I also want to say that I do appreciate the comments on the district elements of it, because I think it is important for people to know that it was a group decision. But I would encourage the group to think about the knock-on effects, or if it remains in place this year, to consider taking this feedback in place for future years. I have heard public feedback and concern about whether this cascades to other events as well. So I think there will be a lot of questions on what this means for other events that are celebrated in the schools for other non-religious holidays. So I have heard questions of like, what does this mean for events that are typically happening later in the year, like Valentine's or when kids dress up for St. Patrick's Day or those types of things. So I think there is a question that some families have about what this means for other times when kids tend to celebrate in school that can be distracting.
Thank you.
With that said, I do want to touch on a couple of other quick items. I do want to congratulate all the professional status candidates. There are some in there that I know very well and have made a huge impact on the kids, so I appreciate that. I'm sure they all have, but I happen to know a few very well and the impact that they have made. I also want to echo the public comment on data. If anybody attends school committee, I'm a data junkie, that's what I do for a living. So I get very excited when you share survey data and content like that. I think it's really powerful and really helpful, and it grounds us in what's really happening. I also think our additional school committee members that give extra context to that. You humanize the moment and help us remember what it is to be in high school. I especially loved your comment on the extra advisory. It's a short day, but it's a really long day because you don't have advisory. I think that's huge and important. As adults, we get to take breaks for a minute. We get to walk away and have more control over our day. So I love that. So thank you for bringing voice to that as well. And lastly, thank you to all the community members and families who stopped by the HRC table, Human Rights Committee table at the NRT. We did an event around, I take no credit for it. The team members who organize these events are way more creative than I am, but we did the puzzle pieces of Easton and had each person decorate their own puzzle piece to show all the ways in which we're different, and we're looking for somewhere to host that. We're hoping for a little rotating host, but appreciate all of those who contributed to it. It was a great event, so I appreciate that as well, and that's it for me.
Okay, great. All right, so continuing on the NRT fair, Easton has a superintendent advisory committee, which is a cross-sectional group of representatives from different community partnerships in Easton, as well as school committee members and some district administrators. So we had a table for the first time at the NRT fair. Thank you to OA teacher Elizabeth Starr for organizing that. I was able to be there for part of it, and Lauren Loomis was there for part of it. It was great to have people stop by and say hello. If you don't know Mrs. Starr, I'd be shocked because she apparently knows the entire town. Nancy, she's going to give you a run for your money. But it was great to have somebody there who can literally say hello to anybody walking by. So we had a really fun experience, and it was great. It was great having people stop by, and hopefully that's something that we can continue to do. Really enjoyed that. Let's see, so district stuff. As Nancy mentioned, 'tis the season for fundraisers, so if you need your car washed, be on the lookout. There's probably an OA or Easton Public Schools team out there on really any given Saturday or Sunday on various points on 138 to go get your car washed. So stop by and support them, as well as the boosters who provide a lot of the support for various clubs and activities and athletics. EMS had the Pathways to the Future. I don't have a middle school student, but I don't know if anybody here wants to maybe mention that. Maybe Mrs. Pruitt, if you can tell us a little bit about that.
Did I turn this off? No, it's on. Yeah, it was a wonderful event. Real kudos goes to Erin Daly, our science curriculum leader at the middle school, and Christine Conley, our 8th grade science teacher, who really spearheaded getting the Pathways program, brought the Pathways program back to EMS. We had the program for many years, and then when COVID hit, we stopped the program, and then this was the first year of reinstatement. Pathways is an opportunity for community members to come in and share their and vendor, partnerships, as well as professions to come in and share their professions with our middle school students related to the STEAM field: science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And it was a wonderful day. They did a fantastic job of really recreating that momentum. We had close to 30 tables set up. We had a couple high school clubs show up as well, right? Oh, yeah. Marvel was there, of course. And it was so fun to see the students interact and engage with not only the high school students, but with also the community members that were there. So there were some back scratchers handed out by chiropractors. We had our child development club there as well, sharing some of the work that they do. And Marvel, you were there representing the science club, the science team. But it was a wonderful event. Both of our Easton Police Department and Easton Fire Department were there to share with the students as well, and our YMCA and many of our other partners. It was great. So we're really excited, and Erin and Christine are excited to bring it back again next year with more vendors and even more possibilities.
Thank you so much for that update.
Yes.
So our CPAC, I think it's spoken briefly about them during my last update. So they did have their first district-wide meeting a couple of weeks ago and elected some new officers. So it is no longer an executive board of one, which is fantastic. So thank you for the people who attended and who raised your hands to volunteer to keep that incredibly important program going. And one of the marquee programs that the CPAC does is coming up October 16th and 18th at Richardson Olmsted, and that is the 4th grade Ability Awareness Days. So if anybody is interested in volunteering for that, you can check the CPAC Facebook page. There's a link to the sign up. You do need a Corey, and there's the contact person is listed there in case you need to check your Corey status. Last time I checked, there were a couple of spots open, but it's been a few days since I looked, so it may be closed, but I'm very excited to see. I went through the volunteer list, and there were a lot of old friends, but a lot of new names on there too. So it looks like the support for those 2 days is really strong, and I'm excited for them. So I'll be there on Friday, actually, with a couple of colleagues from my company who are interested in joining through one of our resource groups that we have at work. Let's see, there is the multi-language families potluck, right, coming up at RO.
Yes.
That is the 23rd, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. So that's exciting. And then in terms of
Yes.
PK to 12.
Yep.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And then in terms of some of the extracurriculars that are going on, Tigerama marching band competition is, our home marching band competition is Saturday evening. There will be food trucks there and vendors, so it's a really great night. It's a blast being out there. You know, under the lights and the moon, and it's just a really fun night and amazing music. The musical Mean Girls, which is coming up in March, they've done their casting, and our musicals are so good that people from other high schools know who was cast in our musical. So I heard that from somebody who goes to a school in a different district. Oh, I heard so-and-so got whatever. How did you know that? Oh, we keep track. Okay. And then sports, as always, our fall sports teams enjoy a ton of success. The first team, to my knowledge, that has wrapped up their regular season is boys and girls cross country. Both teams were undefeated this season, which is really not unusual for them. And so they've clinched the Hockomock Davenport Championship and will move on to what will undoubtedly be a very competitive postseason. And finally, or no, not finally, two more things, PACE. So our Promoting a Sustainable Easton Committee is a cross-departmental committee. I've spoken about it before, so I won't go over it again and again, but we did have a very lengthy meeting last night. It was 4 hours, and the focus was educating the committee and the public, because these meetings are recorded and available to the public, on all of the financial inputs and outputs for Easton Public Schools. So as I mentioned in the meeting last night, you could teach this as a graduate level course. There's enough content. You could meet all day, every day, for days and days on end. And so the central leadership team did just an incredible job of gathering all of the information and putting it together into something that could be digested down in 4 hours, which sounds like a long time, but really there's just so much information. It's so incredibly complex. So just wanted to, again, commend Dr. Cabral and leadership team, many of whom are here tonight, for all of the work and effort that was put into that. It was very, very impressive to see it all come together. And I know we've gotten feedback from committee members who are not school-related staff and volunteers about how impressed they were and how valuable that information was. So to members of the public, if you are the kind of person who's really interested in a deep dive into educational finance or just how, everything that goes into running a district, it might be something for you to watch. And the intent, though, is recognizing that that's very hard to digest, is for the committee, long-term, we'll be putting together some condensed information for the public, and we'll be hopefully doing some meetings where people can have an opportunity to ask questions or get more information. But we're right now sort of in our fact-finding and fact-sharing phases. So the next PACE meeting is October 23rd, and those begin at 5:30 p.m. And then finally, my last note is I just want to give credit to Lauren Loomis for her work with our Student Advisory Council. So, not to catch you off guard, but I think we can all agree that having our students as part of the school committee is incredibly, incredibly valuable, and to get that value and keep it going requires that somebody put some time and effort into working with Mrs. Kavanaugh and with Mr. Auger at the high school, and then with the students themselves. So the person who has taken on that responsibility is Lauren Loomis, and we really appreciate it and are enjoying the results of that and look forward to that continuing. So
If I can just add to that, it's also really, really helpful to have like a direct liaison to the school committee, because it's not that we wouldn't be doing anything if you weren't there. It's just it's more immediate when you're there. And it was also really nice to have someone like on the dot be like, oh, like we don't really need that but like, oh, I want emphasis on this, I want emphasis on that. And it was also just great because Ms. Loomis has experiences of her own, and it was great. So yeah, thank you.
Pleasure.
And I guess before we wrap up, then I would like. Oh,
Jen, I'm
yes.
sorry, can I have one more, it was on another piece of paper.
Sure, of course.
I'm sorry, I'm sick and I'm old. Listen, I want to agree with Lauren and Kelly. As a teacher of middle school at Halloween, I love dress up day. I love that the kids were in their costumes. There are some days during the school year that you just have to adapt a different way to teach that day. And the kids are, on Halloween, the kids are all about Halloween. And I love what somebody said, I don't know if it was Lauren or somebody, but when the kids go to school, they don't see those kids at trick or treat time, maybe in their neighborhood. And so these kids are like their family during the school day for 180 days. And they want to just share their costumes with the other kids. But also, parents make good decisions usually about, especially for the littles, about what costume to wear. And those little parades for years and years and years, oh my goodness, just the best. And I know the school committee doesn't have any input on this, but I hope that it can be rethought that they might have a little parade again. Thank you, sorry.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. Okay. All right, so I think, oh yes, the last thing I just want to say was to welcome, thank you. I give you a ton of credit, Leah, for joining us, for speaking tonight. To get in front of a room full of people on TV with a microphone is incredibly daunting, and you just showed incredible comfort and poise.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such a learning experience, and you know, I didn't think I'd be the one here, but I'm so glad that Marvel did come up with the idea of us shadowing her. It's definitely going to help us in the future, and this wasn't as daunting as I thought it would be.
That's good to hear.
I felt that way at my first school committee.
So thank you for being here, and we look forward to, if you have the opportunity to sub in for Marva later in the year, to seeing you again, or to have you come and join again, or be in the audience.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so much.
In addition, thank you. Okay, all right, so with that, our next meeting is the 24th at 6 p.m. And I'll make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Percio, second.
And roll call vote?
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Percio, yes.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Oh, feel better, Nancy.
Thank you. Night, everybody.
Night.
Night.